But it has been a problem. Look how rare this is. In the last 80 years, only Nick Saban's Alabama teams, the great Nebraska teams in the mid-90s. Then you have to go back to the 50s and 40s with Oklahoma and Notre Dame to find repeat champions. Kirby Smart is trying to do that about 98 minutes away from the start of this national championship game. And pleased to be joined by the new head coach at Colorado. The great Deion Sanders is here.
I didn't get the memo that we were all wearing ties. Nobody get that. Nobody.
All of us.
Even him. Even him.
He went from tank top to tie. How about that? You know what? Deion is here scouting. You're starting your season with TCU next year.
Oh,
you know?
wow. Well, maybe. That may change.
Oh, it may change. What hasn't changed? Hey, what hasn't changed is the difficulty of repeating. You know what it's like as a player. You were able to repeat as a Super Bowl champion and then tried to do it with the team the following year, and it didn't work out. How difficult is that? Why is it difficult?
It's not easy. It's very difficult because you have new guys coming in. The main thing is you want those guys that you're counting on to be the guys that you're counting on. Unfortunately, some of those guys lay an egg. Some of those guys don't show up, and that's the problem. When the main guys don't show up for you, that poses a severe problem.
Well, you know, relief syndrome is sort of a human condition that we all have when we have success. And success is not a continuum, it's momentary. So how do you get people, as you say, everyone to refocus and recenter and do the things they need to do to continue to face the challenges? Because when you win a championship, you become the target. Everybody else wants to beat you even more.
Right.
So it's even more important for you to create the right habits. Complacency, blatant disregard for doing what's right. And then you create the wrong habits. And you go out and play, and when the game comes, you want to win. When the game comes, you want to go do what you got to do, but you didn't put the preparation in, you didn't practice, you didn't create the habits, so you don't have the success that you want to have, and then you get a little frustrated, and things don't work out like you like.
Coach, I think all of us who follow college football, you won it in 09, and that football team was your first at Alabama, and yet every year since, you've either been in it or been close to it and won so many.
Right.
The psychological aspect of what Kirby and his team's been dealing with. He lost 5 first-rounders off the defense last year.
Right.
This young team came in. His selling point to them was what you heard from A.J. McCarron. You haven't done anything yet. That was the guys that are in the NFL now, and they really bought into that. Do you have to play kind of psychological warfare with the guys to get them ready that second year?
There's no question about it. But some guys buy into it, and some guys don't. And just like our team last year, after we won in 20 and 21, I was so frustrated with our team because we weren't practicing, we weren't preparing, we were doing the things we needed to do, and we go play at Texas A&M and lay an egg, get behind 24-7, come back, get ahead 38-31 with 5 minutes to go to the game. Yep. I look at the scoreboard and I say, what am I going to say to this team if we win?
Yeah.
Because we played so poorly.
Right.
And the worst thing you can do to me in any sport is play poorly and win.
Yeah.
Because then nobody wants to respond the right way to correct the things you need to correct. So it's a really, really difficult task. I think Kirby's done a great job with this team because they haven't skipped the beat. They played well all year long.
Yeah, I think you and Bill Belichick have obviously done a fantastic job of being able to continue greatness. And, you know, I don't know if it was you, Bill, or maybe Prime talking, but obviously the enemy of great is good, right? Because once you get good, you start getting content. You don't want to continue to work. The enemy of a dynasty is winning one championship and letting it go. Prime, you're obviously going to Colorado, a place that's been looking for some sort of championship for 20 years. You're also one of the greatest speakers I've ever heard. You're Kirby Smart talking to these boys, and let's act like you're going to be doing this in Colorado in a very, hey, we're trying to win now, in a very near future. What are you saying to your team?
Well, first of all, you got to get their guys, their main guys. They don't have to buy in. This is how we do it. This is what we do. So it's just consistency. It's the consistency that has to be established, not only on the practice field, but off the field. And those guys have to be the same. You can't get here and all of a sudden change. Yeah. You don't want to see a different mannerism of somebody, and especially the coaches. See, everybody's talking about the players.
Yeah.
But you got to coach the coaches too. Yeah. The coaches cannot get complacent, and they can't look around and start thinking about jobs and going elsewhere and thinking about their next move. They have to be consistent as well.
When I was drafted in 1992, the Washington at that point was the Redskins, now the Commanders. They had won the Super Bowl. And Coach Gibbs he was so stressed trying to win it again, trying to repeat. And he used to talk about that. He would talk to the players and he would talk to the coaches. And I remember we played Atlanta. And Deion Sanders was on the Falcons. And it was like one of my first games. And here I am about to return the punt. Brian Mitchell was back there with me. He threw a lateral. I took the punt all the way to the house. My first touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm happy. Deion, what happened after that?
I was so mad. I was so upset. I wasn't even returning punts. I told the punt returner, get the kickoff return. Get off the field. I got this. I took it to the house and looked over at Des and said, what? What?
That's the pressure of trying to repeat, baby. You know what I mean?
That is crazy.
He took it personal.
That's awesome.
Deion, it's great to have you with us. And
Thank you.
if you decide that the TCU Colorado game's not happening, let us know first.
Arizona State may happen. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, all we need is a duck out here. We can do a commercial.
Coach Deion Sanders talking repeat. Hey, this is a championship feel, isn't it? 92 minutes away from kickoff. Team Hotel, Kirby Smart with the national championship, 5 SEC East titles, couple of SEC championships. His calling card is defense the last couple of games. Well, they've played better offenses, particularly Ohio State. They've given up 35.5 points per game in the last two, over 500 yards per game, 500 yards passing to LSU in the SEC championship game. As we're joined by the greatest defensive dog of them all, David Pollack is here. So Ohio State moved ball on Georgia. Did they give him a blueprint?
I think you saw some things you can definitely take from that game. I mean, the running quarterback, that's a real deal. C.J. Stroud looked like Max Duggan all year long, just scrambling around, looking really good. And I think some of the way they moved the pocket and threw back across the formation. So, yeah, I think Georgia, LSU struggled. Versus Ohio State, they struggled. I think there's some things in that secondary. If you can buy some time, you can take advantage of.
Yeah, and last week they had to take on the #1 wide receiver in next year's draft. This week they have to take on the #1 wide receiver in this year's draft, in Quentin Johnston. And if Max Duggan and he can connect like they have been since week 5 against Kansas, much like C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. have been able to, I think that'll obviously be a key to success. I think Quentin Johnston and Marvin Harrison Jr. vastly different, though. So look for Darius Davis, #2 wide receiver for TCU for Max Duggan. Also a returner. He can do
He's faster than fast.
The quick things.
Off-script stuff with Max Duggan. This is kind of what Georgia struggled with last week. If it's going to be a blueprint taker, that feels like potentially what it could be. And I'm kind of excited to see what Darius and Duggan can do.
Yeah, I tell you what impressed me about the Peach Bowl was the way that Ryan Day called plays, though. Like, he threw caution to the wind. He's like, I don't give a damn. I'm about to go out here. We're not going to just give them the respect. They're going to have to earn our respect. That's what Ohio State's blueprint was against Georgia. They said, we're going to go out this field and we're going to be ourselves. Of course, they did some different things with C.J. Stroud, but that's what a great coordinator does.
Dang right.
But outside of that, they're just like, man, we're going to play knuckle up, roll up our sleeves. We don't care what happened in the Michigan game. We don't care what happened in the regular season. We're about to show everybody who we are. To me, that needs to be TCU's approach. You can't come out here, okay, defending national champs. No, you don't give them respect. They have to earn your respect on the gridiron today.
Yeah, all humans. And to his point, fake punt was called by Ryan Day in the
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Like, Ryan Day threw caution to the wind. He was all out in that game.
Well, I think a big thing, going back to your point about throw caution to the wind, Garrett Riley yesterday in my meeting with him used the term be bold. As a play caller.
Exactly.
And he's like, that's who we've been all year. So I really don't expect this environment to make that change.
Great point.
And if you go back to the Ohio State game, it was some design runs, but really it was C.J. Stroud improvising and creating and directing traffic. So Max Duggan, to me, is more of a concern for Georgia because he's going to run it 15 or 18 times. He's a running back playing quarterback. Very different than what they faced last week. But the same concern because Georgia, David, is vulnerable. They don't pressure the quarterback unless they're able to bring a pressure. They don't have anybody to get home. I think Jalen Carter will be tired tonight because the tempo. I don't know how they get to him in the pass rush. And when they do, he's going to create and buy time. And that secondary, to me, is vulnerable against these wide receivers if they don't get pressure.
He created, he backed away and threw the football off of that, too, which was great. What do you think Kirby's listening to on the
my podcast?
Podcast on leadership?
Exactly.
What do you say to a team that needs to repeat as a champion? Podcast. But to your guys' point about pressure against the blitz with Michigan last week, Max Duggan was 6-12, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yep. Yeah.
So he handled it well. And simulated pressure is recognizing it'll be a big deal for Duggan against that Georgia
defense. They're going to have to
defense.
spy Duggan, right? I mean, Kirby's going to have to.
They better.
Yeah.
And QB.